which basically gives us permission to use the track. It's a really old method of safe working trains, dates back to the 1830s. Not something that you see these days. We've got satellites and GPS tracking and colour signals and stuff. So this is just a old school method that works for us because obviously the government isn't going to spend the millions of dollars that they would need to upgrade the system out here for one train. Anyway, hi. How's all going? It's bloody hot, isn't it? Well, I live up here and even I'm having a whinge about it. Brown Falcon taken off my left hand side there. Putting on a bit of a show for us on the left, cool. Those guys are snake specialists. Those guys will land in front of a snake. They'll eat other things as well, but they will land in front of a snake. They put their wings out, spread them out by their sides, and they sort of dance in front of the snake. And the snake's not too sure, he's a little bit confused exactly what to strike. And what the brown falcon will do is he kind of hit the snake in the side of the head with his outstretched wings. So the snake then starts to attack those. If he bites them, they're just feathers. You know, it doesn't have any effect on the bird whatsoever. So the bird keeps doing that, ties the snake out, and as the snake starts to get a little bit sluggish, exhausted, the brown falcon will grab its head with its talons and start to chew it to pieces. So your Mother Nature's not all about rainbows and bloody fur seals. She can get a bit gory sometimes, kids. Anyway, welcome to the Savannahlander. To all of those who've just joined us, we've got 41 people. You guys, you're staying all over there at Forsyth, and you've come over to Steve, and now we're going to take you back to Forsyth. But the good thing about it is that we do go a different way. You will see that road pop up next to the line a couple of times, but for most of the trip we do go through different country. So for those of you who have just joined us, my name is Will and I'm driving a train. The other fella next to me who's trying to do some mathematics at the moment, make sure we got the right amount of people on board, that's Hamish. So we are your drivers. Now for those of you who have been with us since Cairns, I do apologise because you've heard these rules, I don't know how many times now. So the Ferbers may have been the first white family to turn up here in 1864, but the area that we're travelling over this afternoon has been home to the Yuriman people for the last 60,000 years. And throughout the afternoon we're going to touch a little bit of info regarding some of the information that has been passed on to me by some of the Yuriman people in the area. But as far as what we are going to be doing today, we just got a bit of undulating ground to move over. That's what we're doing now. Soon enough we're going to start our climb of the Newcastle range. Now those of you who have just joined us, you've just done the Newcastle range in a car. You come up one side, across the down the other. But those of you who've been with us since Cairns, you might remember, I was telling you guys about it yesterday. We go down the other side of the Newcastle range, and effectively what we're doing is descending down the western side of the Great Dividing Range for this particular part of the country. If you spend any time pushing further west, Georgetown, the ground there undulates a little bit, but it's not too long before you get to Croydon, you start hitting that floodplain country, which takes you then all the way across to the Gulf. track. Now, I don't know much about ballast hoppers, but apparently whoever made them was an idiot. I reckon when they're full, which is half the time, they're okay, but when they're empty, the other half of the time, they do have a tendency to derail all the time. They're real heavy on the top, skinny on the bottom, and they reckon with that one there, with that one there, it derailed 3 times in a single trip coming from Forsyth. So every time they derailed, they had to get it back on, and that was taking forever. So for that train to get where it was going was going to be ages. The driver decided to cut it out and throw it there. There's just something on the track I want to get because I saw it. There's copper through here, there's still a bit of gold, some lead, tin, possibly a bit of silver. There's all sorts of bits and pieces. The mining companies have explored through here multiple times throughout my 10 years of driving a train. And they find the minerals, but each of these companies comes up with the same problem. To get them out of the ground in an environmentally friendly way that doesn't sort of contaminate groundwater is a bit undoable at the moment. We don't have the technology to make it feasible. nutrients out of the soil and transfer it into the roots of the plant. In exchange, this fungus will take a little bit of sugars, a bit of carbohydrate from the plant that it produces from photosynthesis. So pulling out one of those grevilleas, taking it home, is going to die pretty quickly because it needs that fungus growing, and in order to get that fungus to grow, you have to replicate the same soil conditions, salinity, temperature, humidity, all that sort of stuff. And generally that fungus does need a certain decaying wood in the ground as well to live. So trying to set all that up in a pot on your veranda is pretty much impossible. So no, Grevillea decoras aren't available in nurseries. That's probably why they don't really have a common name, because they've never been marketed. Concerned about a noise that's coming out from underneath the front of this unit. So once we get over this little rise, we're just going to pull the train up. Hamish is going to get out and we're just going to do a couple little tests to see if we can figure out what's going on.